YugabyteDB Training. In this video, we're going to look at how do we connect to a Yugabyte AEON cluster, which we had spun up in one of the previous videos. And we're going to see what are the different ways to connect and run some sample queries so that we get an understanding. And you can also try connecting to your own cluster and then start practicing. So if you are able to see my screen, I'm currently on the AEON cluster page where we have an sandbox cluster that was spun up in one of our previous videos, if you recall. Otherwise, please go look at the video. And if you look at the overview page, we have a total of 1 nodes with 2 CPU each and 4 GB of RAM and 10 GB of total disk space. This is more than enough for us to try and test connectivity from any of our existing applications. So there are different ways how can one connect to a Yugabyte AEON cluster. Obviously, there are two main stakeholders who connect to a database directly. One will be the database administrators who are going to create any databases, schemas, tables, and other objects and may perform maintenance of the database cluster. For example, creating indexes, running analyze, performing any other maintenance activities, restarts, and other stuff. Whereas other important stakeholder in this whole setup is the developers. Generally, developers connect to a lower environment, which can be a dev SIT or a UAT environment where they may have different kinds of accesses. Mostly developers use the dev environment, where they have higher level of privilege, where they can create the objects themselves, do a lot of testing there. So consider this sandbox as a dev environment for the developers, and developers generally use some tools like pgadmin or dviewer generally to connect to their Postgres instances. So similar kind of tool they would want to connect to the Yugabyte. So since the beginning, we have been telling Yugabyte is a Postgres query layer. So how you write queries on a Postgres, it is exactly 100% similar how you are going to write on Yugabyte. So let's first focus on the developer part, where also it will be useful for DBS because DBS not always would connect from a console. They can even connect from any of the tools like pgadmin or dviewer and do a wide variety of activities, which people may obviously request, especially in production environments. It will be very useful to do a lot of activities which to support the developers and other users. So now if we are on this page, and if you recollect, we earlier allowed our own IP address to be able to connect to this cluster. It is most important because this is an AEON cluster which has been available in AWS. So there should be a whitelisting between this cluster and to our system from where we are connecting. So since I'm connecting from my laptop, I have allowed the IP address of my own system to be able to connect to this server. So with the connectivity being available now, the next part will be, I'll be demonstrating on how do we connect using the dviewer tool. So if you're familiar, there's a tool called dviewer, which connects to a wide variety of databases, which can include Postgres, MySQL, Oracle, and Yugabyte. It comes with the different kinds of connection where you can select the appropriate connection and then go ahead with the steps where it's going to download the driver required if not already exist, but your system has to connect to internet for that. So now let's go here to the Yugabyte cluster, and a few metrics here, and there are a few options below. If you have not done that previously, you can always go here and then add your current IP address. Since mine is already there, you can go exit out of here. And there are other options as well, but here the main focus will be on how do we connect from dviewer tool. That's it. And there's another connect option, but it says you can connect from a cloud shell. So this is mostly for administrators to be able to launch a cloud shell and run your console level commands like /d/dt and all those commands. And if we want to run from our own operating system CMD or a shell window, we can also do that, but we need appropriate line to be able to run those commands, YSQL, SH commands. And then there's obviously most important part is to connect to actual application, and there are a wide variety of applications, and we're not going to get into the application level at the moment. We are going to focus only on connecting from dviewer primarily. So let me close that out and let's go to settings. So here there are few informations available about our cluster and what's the region the cluster is available and what is the public host name of the cluster. So this is the most important point that I need. So I let me copy that and I'll go to the dviewer tool, and there is a small icon here which says new database connection. And if you click on a drop down, obviously it gives various selections. But if you have just installed dviewer, you can always go search in your favorite search engine and then look for dbeaver tool. Once it is downloaded and installed, just go and click on new database connection. And here you will see a lot of different variety of databases connections you can establish. But our interest is YugabyteDB. And since I already connected before, it is listing at the top. But generally, you would see that mostly at the bottom because it may be sorted all alphabetically and Y comes almost at the end. So you might see this last. If you're not able to find, you can always filter. And so since I already have it, let me select the YugabyteDB connection and click on next. Now it is asking for the host name. So I have copied the host name from the previous window, the public host name. And once I provided the port, it's asking the default port is 5433. We have not changed it. So let me put the same. And here's a small checkbox which says show all database. If you don't select this checkbox, you would not be able to see all the databases. You will only be able to see the database which you have connected to. And by default, there are few databases which you're going to look at, but you can leave this to Yugabyte as a default database. In the connection, we're going to go with the native connection. And if you remember, I have created an admin user. You may have created your own user or whatever while you are setting up the cluster. This is one of the prerequisites where you have to download the credentials or create a new user password. So I have created a user with the name admin and set a password. So let me type in that password. Hopefully I remember it correct. Let me do a test connection. So the test connection says successful. So that's good for me. But since if you are connecting for the first time, this may not be very straightforward for you. When you do the test connection, it may actually say the driver doesn't exist and then it may prompt you to install the driver. So that should be just a couple of clicks away. If you click on download, it will go appropriate. A driver will be downloaded and install post, which you do a test connection, it should succeed. And we're not touching any advanced options at the moment. So we're going to go here and you can see the different options. And if you want to look at the driver documentation, you can obviously look into driver properties. That's going to take you to so yeah, we're now going to get there. But since the test connection is successful, let me click on the finish. And if you see now, I have a new connection got successfully created. It's not a very user-friendly name. I should have changed it before, but always you can do right click and do edit connection and go to the general tab and give a more appropriate name. So maybe I'll give it demo training cluster. There's no naming. It's up to you how you want to configure the name. So I just created a more gigabyte cluster. And now I can just interact with it. If I expand it, it is going to connect to that. And by default, when you spin up a brand new empty AEON Yugabyte cluster or even the regular on-prem or AWS self-managed Yugabyte cluster, you by default get two important databases. One is the Yugabyte database and second one is the Postgres. As we have been constantly telling, this is built on top of Postgres layer as a query layer along with the Cassandra layer. And since we have set up this as in YSQL, uh, we have the Postgres database available. What this database allows is it going to provide us with a lot of catalog views and how do we interpret our queries, run our queries. All this metadata information will be available in this particular database. There's an additional database created by the Yugabyte team for their own purposes, but it is not recommended to use any of these databases for user. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and create a brand new database. So let me go to the SQL editor and say new SQL script. And currently we connected to the demo training YB cluster to the public schema. By default, in the we connected to a Yugabyte database, and thus we have a public schema. So let me go ahead and actually I have made few scripts ready so that it'll be easy for us to go through the demo. So let me first create a database called demo. And if I do, I'm just executing this against any of the database. Currently I'm connected to the public Yugabyte database. So this says the create database demo has been successfully created. So let's go verify if that is successfully created or not. I have just done a refresh and we can see the demo database. And yeah, if we can expand the demo database, we have a default public schema. So the next part is I want to create a schema. The problem at the moment is if I create the schema right under the context of this database, currently I'm connected to the public at Yugabyte database. The schema will get created under the Yugabyte database. But what I want is the schema to be created under the demo database. So for that, what I will do is I will go and open a new query window, and then I'll run the command against this particular database. So it is going to run, and yeah, it has completed successfully. So if I just refresh now, yeah, we can see a demo schema as well. As of now, there are no tables as such, but that is okay. We're going to go through. So let me copy these commands here and replace the existing one. Now we can go and run our regular Postgres query. So if you look at, we got all the PG catalog tables available, and also there'll be some information schema related tables that will be available. So I'm just trying to exclude all those tables and see if there are any user specific tables created, but as of now, none. So let's go ahead and create a first table. It's called customers. There are a few columns here: ID, integer, name, character, address, email, and mobile. So I'll go ahead and create the table, and this is just regular SQL syntax. This will work across any database. Apart from the data types have to be verified. For example, in Postgres, you have a text data type, but in an MS SQL, you may not really want to use the text data type, and you may want to change that to a varchar. So if you see that the success command has been successfully completed, let's go verify and do a refresh here. Hopefully the tables will reflect. Otherwise, we'll have to give a little time for it to refresh. One possible reason, if anyone can think why we are not able to see the tables, potentially if you expand and see if the table got created here. Yeah, that is the right. So because we have not given the schema name before our tables, so that is the reason it has gone and been created in the uh, public schema. So what we'll do, and this is also a good thing, so we can see it's like just like a regular Postgres. We're going to now delete that particular table which was wrongly created in the public schema. And yeah, that's gone. Now let's come back here. Now we have added the demo schema to the here, and let's see if that's now going to create in the right database and schema. Now if I refresh it, yep, I got the table. And if I just run a select statement again, so it is important that I always have to remember and append the schema name to the table name so that it goes to the appropriate schema and fetches the information. Otherwise, default what will be the schema associated with the user search path, it will go look at those search path and see if the table exists in that search path. If not, it'll say the relation does not exist. As of now, we just created a brand new empty table. So yeah, obviously if I do run a select statement, again, this is a simple select statement which will work across all different types of databases. And since we're talking mostly about Postgres, these do work at Postgres as well. And again, this is the standard SQL ANSI syntax on how do you insert a record into a table, and we're just inserting one record. If you do again, let's run a select statement. Yeah, we do have the data available. So the whole purpose, we're not going to go in detail about running various different types of queries because most of you may have already been working on different types of databases. The syntax is not a big challenge, and of late there are so many videos, articles, and AI tools available which can provide you generating the scripts commands to run. The whole purpose of this video is not to learn about writing queries, rather understanding how do we connect to the Yugabyte AEON cluster using any tool like dviewer and then run few sample commands. And this is, as we've been telling, we are just running SQL commands, but any command which is supported on the Postgres will work here. As like Postgres has various different versions which have different new enhancement features or commands, queries that have been supported. Same goes with the Yugabyte. The previous versions of Yugabyte, which are before 2025, support PG11 Postgres layer. So any queries which are supporting PG level will work on the previous anything prior to 2025 version. After 2025.1 or higher version, now there is a compatibility of PG15. So all the PG15 commands will work going forward from 2025 onwards. So with that, I think, yeah, the DVR connection is done. Now let's go back to our main cluster and see what are the other options. So we have been seeing connecting via Cloud Shell. This is mainly for the DBS. So it's again asking which database you want to connect. So let me leave the default to, and the admin is a user, and the way I want to connect is YSQL, because we've been looking mostly into the YSQL, which is Postgres compatibility. Once I click on confirm, it should open a shell window for me. Yep, I got the shell window. So you see, what does it say? Explore how YugabyteDB in Post is compatible in 60 seconds. So he's asking to explore, then it's asking enter your DB password in the terminal on the right side. Yeah, I got a window to enter my DB password. So let me see if that does work. Yes, it connected successfully. So if I do just regular PSQL commands like /c, it shows which is the database I'm connected to. Currently, I'm connected to Yugabyte database, and we create a database called demo. Let's see if we will switch to the database. Yes, now we are into the database demo. So if you look at, see, the connection has been changed to the demo database. Now let's see if I can do /d. So it does say it couldn't find any relations. So /d, and maybe I'll put what was the name of the schema? MHMA star. Yep, now I got one table listed here onto the demo schema, which is a customers table. So now I can do /dt and do customers, and that does show the list of relations for the customer. Maybe I can do /dt plus and see what does it show. Now I also get the size of the table, and it is default 1024 KB, which is kind of NB. And the persistence it shows as a permanent, and the schema which this table belongs to, and what's the type of the object it's a table. So these are all regular commands, PSQL commands, which generally administrators do. And we can do a lot of things. You can create new schema, create schema, new schema, and it should work. Yep, we have now /d, and if I recollect correctly, yep, and now you have demo schema and a new schema. Now you can create new table, create table. Sorry about that. New table ID int. Sorry. So, so if you recollect, last time we made a mistake without providing the schema names. It will go to the public schema. So what we'll do now, new schema dot table int. So now let's /dt plus, and we'll give. So yeah, now the schema name is new schema, the table name is new table. And whatever we have, we tried to do before, like creating database, creating schema, creating objects, everything can be done from here as well. This mainly can be used by administrators who want to directly use the console to do a lot of shortcuts like using slash commands. So let me exit out of this window and yeah, let me close tab and leave this page. That will bring me back here to the main cluster page. So yeah, that is pretty much I want to explain in this video. The whole purpose of the video, as I've been telling, is not more about how do we connect to the cluster from dviewer or console, create database schemas, and just demonstrate how a regular Postgres commands can be run. And that is what the power of Yugabyte has come from, which is a 100% Postgres compatible. As said, there are a few limitations, whereas depending on the version of the cluster you are running, cluster, your PG compatibility may vary. So any cluster which is before 2025, the compatibility is PG 11, and anything beyond 2025, the compatibility is PG 15. Yeah, so you can use the latest features, commands, syntaxes available in the PG 15 onwards. So with that, I think we are good. We'll conclude this video, and maybe in future videos, we're going to demonstrate in detail about using tools like Voyager to import data, using YSQL commands to take backups or logical backups, copy data, restore, take schema backups, restore. Using Voyager, we load data, or using other commands like copy command, which is a popular command. We may not try it on the AEON cluster, but we may look to try it on a self-managed cluster to see how it works. Then we're going to drill deeper into generating self-loads using generate series, creating indexes, and then understanding on larger tables, how does the tablet splitting works, what are the default strategies. There's so many things which administrators and developers will have to understand in the tablet perspective when they're creating the data model. So data model will itself be a huge topic. So we're going to explore there further. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.